Alright, so thought I'd do a little video on the basics of my K-swapped MR2. Maybe it'll help some people down the road, and hopefully I'll see you guys on the road with your future swaps, and hope this helps. Basically, I got a K20 A2 out of a 2003 RSX Type S. It was wrecked, so I got the whole car. It was pretty much, sorry about that, a plug-and-play drop-in. But that's the whole Honda 6-speed, and the whole shebang is together. I ended up getting Hux Racing poly mounts, which are here. No cutting, just straight bolt in. Straight bolt in, which is what I prefer, which is what it drew me to this swap. These mounts were $650 from Hux Racing. The solid mounts are for like 1,000 horsepower builds, which I never ever plan to be near. And you pretty much plug straight in. For drive shafts, this is a K-series center section, so this was just the drive shaft that came with the car. As for these drive shafts, they are drive shaft shop level 0 axles, and I've had these for less than a year, and you can see how grody they've become, so I don't recommend doing that. But this was a non-turbo car, so they threaded straight in. If I could do it again, I would go get some B-series axles out of any old Integra, which would be a lot easier to get together. So from there, we're going to go to the shifter linkage. So these are the factory shift cables from my RSX. These shift plates are factory, but originally the plate sits back here and they draw from the other side. So with this piece, I don't even remember what company I got this from now. There's some Australian company for like $250, but Hux Racing makes one now, so just go stop over to him. He's the guy to see. And then from there, ran the cables straight in. This is a factory RSX Type S box. Normally they're about this tall, but I chopped a bunch of the center section. I can see those welds, and shortened it a bunch. So as for throw, it is pretty tight, and I don't even think I'm going to end up going with an aftermarket shift box because of how tight it is. Down here, I had a local machine shop machine me a plate. This adapts to the original shifter location, and then these bushings go in there and adapt to the shifter box. This is just an eBay knob. I don't remember where I got it from, but it pretty much went straight on. As for interior, most of the interior is stock. I have a couple pieces removed just to wean it out. My steering wheel was shot, so I put this on, which I regret because it's just a chintzy eBay wheel. As for ECU placement, I'm using this pocket back here. So one of the guys on the forum I saw, and I have a Hyundai K-Pro V4, and then I'm just running my wire up into here for my computer, which I'll eventually have a spot for. And this is pretty much just a rough cut of what's going to happen eventually. I want to close this, and my other car is going to have the piece still here, so this will all be covered. There is the donor car that's will end up replacing this one, but for now this one's okay. A lot of wiring. I tried to be an a-hole and do this myself, jumping in, not knowing what I was doing, and well, it's been the biggest hurdle. So Hux Racing again makes a tuck harness that I would highly suggest. It deletes this fuse box. Get a couple wires down in here that still go there, and everything else just tucks inside, and that is literally as good as you can get. I wouldn't, if I was doing it again, I would go with Hux. So I got this stupid K-tune filter, or filler neck, that didn't fit and leaked. And then the stock PRB intake manifold, the throttle body was running into it. So I had to get an RBC. Well, it was an upgrade. Wasn't really expecting it, but it's an upgrade, so I'm not that upset. Got the K20 adapter plate, a 70mm skunk throttle body. This is a factory RSX short ram intake I chopped up. I just chopped a bunch off up here, and then just enough so it's a little bit of a turn. Just some Spectra thing off, I think AutoZone. But anyways, so got all this on, got the new rail, routed the fuel line from the other side, and then find out that this original one is the K-tuned one is leaking, like fucking terrible. So I had my local machine shop guy, or my local welder, weld me up this is a factory filler neck. I just had a 6-inch tube of aluminum welded onto, and then this is the top of the original K-tuned piece, which I just hacked up and reused. This is the fitting for the Dash 16 coolant lines. I thought I was going to run these and be better off with the coolant lines, but these have been a pain in the ass. So if you can save the factory ones, use the factory coolant line, which will run from here to here. You don't have to weld this piece on. This is definitely a help, because now I can bleed it whenever I want to. And then as for the other side, you won't be able to see it, but it's also a K-tuned swivel neck, which sucks butt, and I would never buy it again. Harness wise, this is a factory harness. I stripped off all that protective shielding and kind of just tried to reroute it. This originally wanted to come out and shoot straight through this hole, which was nice because I had all my stuff back there. So my ECU, relays, all that were all back there. But since then, I've decided to open that up so I can use this for storage space if I ever go to, like, say, Ocean City. As for a header, this is just a Comtech that came with the car. Down here where the fitting was, I had a 3-inch pipe welded on. Again, local welder did it. If you can find a local welder, buddy up, be nice to him. He will save you lots. So there's that pipe, comes down here as a 3-inch piece, drops to a 2.5, and this is a thrush muffler from AutoZone. So this is getting pretty standard parts. Anyway, this is a 2.5-inch thrush muffler. It cost me like $30. And then I had him weld me this turn down, which I think looks pretty nice. I don't have a hanger yet, but that's what you see from behind, so it doesn't look terrible. Suspension-wise, the car is completely stock. For fuel, I went with a Warble 255, which I don't think you can see down there very well, but the tank sits back here where those lines go to. And I just did a drop-in tank and then ran my line from up here into this C5 Corvette fuel filter. So this is your inlet, your return. There you go. Inlet, return, and supply. So I got this K-Series rail off of eBay, as cheap as possible. It's got a pressure gauge, which is nice. So I had some Dash 6 laying around. So I ran that from there. This is an Earl's quick disconnect. The slide on to a Dash 6. It comes with the filter. And just slipped it in there. Crank this down, cut this to length. And then the rest are just soft lines I got from AutoZone, or Advanced Auto. Those are the heater lines. So I had heat, but the lines ended up bursting under the car. Yay me. So pretty much for now, I just wrapped this around. This was going to be what I was going to use for my Silverado to loop the heater core of my Silverado, but I ended up using this and just cutting it down, so it's worked pretty well. As for in the back, this is pretty much the basics of what I have. I'm on a stock harness, which I'll probably stay for as long as I can, and then just all your basic grounds. So here off this mount to the transmission, your top mount, valve cover, there's another one over there, but grounds are a big thing for this car. You really need them. It's given me a lot of trouble so far. I'm not even out of the water yet. So then everything runs in there. That's the stock power wire from the MR2. I just looped them together out of the fuse box. I know that was vague, but you'll understand once you get into it. There's the armrest. And there's a stock radio, the shifter box, which is really the only indication when you look at the car that it's not stock. And then all this wiring will be tucked back under. So let's go to the front where I really effed up. And I'm hoping that you guys don't make the same mistake I did. Alright, so here's my engine bay. I have power steering, but it doesn't even work, so eventually it's going to go. The big point is right here. This is my radiator. My original radiator burst. My non-turbo radiator burst. I ordered one off eBay. The guy that sent me one sent me a turbo, which I had to get different lines for, and all this ridiculousness. And then the stock fans that were on there from a non-turbo car do not fit a turbo car. So I got these chinchy eBay fans, which you can't really see. But I got 2 of them, and I had to have custom brackets welded on to fit these fans. So that's been a waste. I don't even want to use them. And then from there, I've just wired up my own relay that goes in. This wire runs into the firewall, goes back to the K-Pro. These are my grounds, or common ground off of this piece. And then K-Pro controls the fans. As for fittings, I told you guys I ran, let me see if I can get it to focus, there we go. So those are dash 16 fittings, which this is like $250 worth of lines and fittings I've had. I had to weld on dash 16 fittings on the original radiator, then to put this on, and clearance has been a huge issue, so if you do that, make sure you cut them down real tight. And then same thing for this side. If it'll focus, I don't think it's going to. Basically, you guys get the gist. So that's it for the radiator. It looks pretty cool up front. Looks like it's turboed, but eventually. Battery number 9, because it's been sitting for so many times. I ended up running a second ground just to be safe. I'm having a grounding issue and the battery not charging, but this is pretty much it. Everything else is stock on the car. I'm still on stock wheels, but I have some S2000 wheels over there. They're going to go on soon. But as for the swap itself, it's literally, you bolt those 3 on, and then you send this through to the original. All the original mounts on the engine mount up the original spots on the car. So when you're yanking engine mounts off this thing, save your bolts, because it'll definitely help. What I ended up doing is dropping the cross member out to get the old engine out. You unplug the 2 relays or pieces here, drop it all out, and clean up your firewall while you're doing it. Don't be a cheap ass like I did and rush it. Do your harness right, do it right the first time, otherwise you're going to be like me. 2 years into this, almost 2, and still not having a fully functioning car. But yeah, this is pretty much it. I'll show you the trunk so you guys know I'm not lying. It is it's not opening. Alright, we'll get to that later if I make another video, but basically that's it. It's a whole standalone harness. It does its own thing. You only need a couple wires off the MR2. But you know, like I said, hit up Hux Racing. The months and months of headache I've had from wiring could have all been saved if I went to Hux for the harness. And then I got the mounts from him, and then the shift bracket down here, which you're going to need. You can hit him up for all 3 in one stop, and you'll have such a big leg up on it on the swap. It won't be funny. And then as for axles, just go get some B series, like some insane shafts, like a 94 to 01 Integra off of eBay for like $300. These axles were, I want to say they were in the ballpark of $700, and look at that. That's less than a year, and I'm not even able to launch on these. They say that anything over daily driving these things are pretty much guaranteed to explode. So you'll definitely see me buying these again. But just all the basic stuff that comes with the swap is I put a new map sensor. Is that a map or yeah, it's a map sensor. That's an extra port right there. So I just plug this hole up with my old map sensor. The only plug I'm not using is the I think this has something to do with the evap system. I could be wrong, but with an aftermarket throttle body, it doesn't come with it. So for the throttle cable also, I couldn't find a lot of information on this, but this is the factory throttle cable. So originally it routes over here and goes to a cruise control and then comes out this way. So you just delete the cruise control in that wire and then grab your throttle cable and pull it all the way under the car and then route it up this way and over. And this is a factory throttle bracket right here. So I cut a piece of it off and then pretty much just took a pair of pliers and a hammer and beat the crap out of this thing until it was in position. So it looks pretty terrible, but it works for what I need. As for everything else, there's some Brian Crowler double beehive springs in there. And then I went with a K-tuned. I'll show you a K-tuned power steering and AC delete. They sent me the wrong rib count for the belt because they friggin' suck most of the time. This is a terrible shot, but just that's what I got. You guys can order it if you want, or there's lots of other options to avoid being with K-tuned, which I'm getting burned on quite consistently. So yeah, this is a fairly inexpensive swap. I bought the car for $1,500. I drove it, water pump exploded, so that was fun. And then I traded a truck for the donor car, but that was probably about $2,000. It was wrecked pretty bad, but it had 30,000 miles on it. So I got the whole swap, the wiring harness, the ECU, and all that. And then it's just been little bits here and there, like the clutch lines, little brackets, all this the little stuff that adds up and kills you. But overall, this is, as my first swap, this has been pretty good to me. I haven't had to measure or cut anything. It's just all basic plug and play bolt downs. You can see how little I drive it, flat tire. But it's all eventually going to go into this car, which is a hard top, I think is what they call it. It's better than these T-tops. These suckers leak all the time. So if you can find one of these, that's the way to go. And then make sure you keep a daily driver around, because Lord knows this thing is going to break all the time. So if you guys got any questions, shoot me a message. I'll try and get back to you, and hopefully you'll see another video later. Thanks. Bye.